Welcome back to another episode of Don't Waste the Chaos. Today's conversation is one I have been looking forward to. I met my guest today on TikTok because yes, the algorithm does get it right sometimes. They do put the right people on your FYP page sometimes. And her story stopped me in my tracks. And I immediately was like, oh, gosh, I align with this. I want to learn more about this person. So Kelsey Thompson is an entrepreneur. She's a lifestyle creator, and she's a long-term recovery addict who believes the goal isn't just success. It's building a life that you don't need to escape from. And if you follow me on my YouTube channel, my whole premise of my channel is building a business, building a life that's worth sticking around for, that you don't want to escape from. So I really feel aligned with Kelsey, and I'm so excited to bring her to you today. After addiction and starting over from very humble beginnings, Kelsey rebuilt her life through discipline, honesty, and very intentional choices without glamorizing the chaos or excess. Today, she's sharing honest conversations about what recovery, ambition, money, identity, and what it really looks like to build a grounded, sustainable life that you actually enjoy living. So this episode is for anybody who wants more, but wants to build it on purpose. Kelsey, thanks for joining me. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Kerri, for having me.
So like I mentioned in the intro, met on TikTok, and I would say this is the very first time I've ever done that. I've never reached out to anybody that I've seen on social media and said like, hey, I don't know you at all. Let me have you on the show, but definitely related to your channel for a couple of reasons. One, love your lifestyle content. That's super fun. I also like probably my favorite thing was that you don't shy away from people's sass a little bit. So people will comment on your stuff and they've got opinions and you're like, hey, let me address this opinion, which is kind of content curation 101. You're doing an excellent job on that.
Oh, thank you.
Helping the haters to grow your followers is awesome. But also I just like how open and honest and transparent you are. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation today and getting into it.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I've written down a few questions that I want to make sure we cover, but I'm sure we're going to go completely off script here. But okay. For the listeners who are meeting you for the first time, what part of your story, I know you said people, bring you in for a variety of different reasons, but what part of your story feels most important for people to understand before anything else?
So I think for me, the part that I always want people to know is that where you start doesn't define where you end up in life. I know for me, my beginning stages of life were really difficult. From the time that I was in school, I had learning disabilities. So I always was really self-conscious about that. And then I struggled with addiction and then had lots of different things happen along the way, a lot of death. And it was just a lot of tragedy. And instead of letting that define me and keep me held down, I learned through whole body health and learning about the brain and the body and just lots of therapy that you can use these things to motivate you and make you a stronger human, and just that it's possible not to be defined by the rough stuff and that you can use it as fuel to transform your whole life into a really positive, awesome thing.
I love that. And what a beautiful message. I went back once I found you on TikTok and asked you if you wanted to be on the show. I hopped on your Instagram page and had a chance to listen to your vows, and your wedding photos were beautiful, by the way. I didn't realize it was just last year, right?
Yeah, in September. Yeah.
Okay, that's so awesome. And one of the things that stood out to me on your vows was you said you like to interview people, and you would interview your grandma and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I'm going to interview her today a little bit. But gosh, such a beautiful story. Talk to me about your relationship and kind of how you guys met. And I love that you have him on your TikTok, and you kind of interview him sometimes. So talk to me a little bit about your relationship with Chad.
Yeah. So Chad is by far, it's that cheesy thing where he's my best friend, but I think both of us met a little bit later in life. We became very strong in who we were as individuals, and then chose to go and find people after that. And I think that was really important for us in our relationship, because I appreciate him for exactly who he is. I don't want to change him in any way. And I have that feeling towards him. So it's a partnership above anything else, and a friendship first, which that's what I always hoped for. But we actually met through a matchmaker. So there's a local matchmaker here who I met while I was working for a large retailer, and they did a private event, and I had kind of clocked that in my brain. And I said, when I finally feel that I am strong and in a position to find my husband, I'm going to give these ladies a call. So I sat down and we went over all the things that I was looking for in a person. And in the very first meeting, she said, Chad's your guy. And and I was like, I don't really know if I want it to be that easy. I was like, I'm paying you some money. Like, I want to go out on some dates. But sure enough, I think he was down at his place in Florida at the time. And so it was going to be about 2 weeks before he came back. So they set me up on some other dates. And on my very first date with him, we just kind of exchanged backstories. And he told me about how he was very much an underdog, and how he had been a high school dropout and had lived in a storage unit, and then built a life for himself after getting a GED and driving hours to go to a college and then starting his business. And I just kept on thinking, I was like, if he's been through all that, he can understand me and where I've been. And I was very open with him. And I said, I struggled with addiction and this is what I went through. And he'll tell you that one of his favorite things about me is that he said, if she could be that open in the very first date, I knew that she'd never lie to me. And so we just, from that point on, we became best friends and built a life together and have been inseparable ever since. But yeah, that's how we met.
Okay, that's awesome. And my husband, similarly, which is one of the reasons why I was so intrigued, also was a high school dropout.
Oh, that's awesome.
Had a one-night stand and a baby that came shortly after as a 16. Well, they 17 when the baby was born.
Yeah.
Brother was in prison, parents, very toxic and lots of abuse there. And so he put himself into the Marine Corps for similar reasons, just trying to figure out something for himself. And he was like, I don't know if this is the answer, but I don't have the answer. And this one's, an option. And so really similar, ended up with one bachelor's and then got a master's and then got a second master's, and really has changed his life. But I loved hearing Chad's aspect of the story too, because that's really, it aligned up with how my husband had grown up too.
Yeah, it's resilience in any way, shape, or form. When you see that in somebody, you're like, that's what I want.
Yes, because I heard somebody say, a speaker say, but we had just started dating and I grew up on a farm, really humbly, but really strict. Mm-hmm. My family was really, really strict. And so I was a little sheltered. And when I met my husband, I was like, oh, this is foreign to me, the family in and out of prison and a lot of addiction and a lot of abuse and things like that. And what I liked most about him was that he could learn something and apply it and change. And change his perspective, change his actions, very disciplined, and was just not going to let life circumstances stop him or anybody else's opinion, or, was really good with boundaries and all of that. And it was so strong and secure. But even though to my family, it felt really messy and chaotic, I saw him as somebody who could not be held back. Yeah,
totally.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. No, that's it. When you get to experience that, and it sounds like you've got the same thing going on. You're like, no, that's a very attractive quality.
Of course. I was made to marry a man. You know what I mean? Like, somebody who's like, I will figure this shit out,
Yeah. So. No. Yeah. That you don't live in fear of situations, because you know that I know that I can handle situations, but I know that he can also do it too. So it's a very secure feeling. So yeah.
Yeah. That philosophy that you don't necessarily need a safety net, because you can rebuild over and over and over again.
Totally.
But building that safety net is beautiful. I can see, again, by your TikTok, that you guys have built an amazing life for yourselves, and we have too. And it's so cool to see when individuals not only get to a better place, but then they level up, and then everyone around them levels up. Their network is leveled up. It changes life for your family and everyone else around you. And that's really cool and really inspiring, but something that I think most people don't realize they can actually get to.
Oh, totally. If it was possible for the two of us, it's possible for anybody. And that's kind of the point of my TikTok. And I think that's what the message that I always want to give out to people. I'm like, don't think that you're got to be stuck there, but it does take a lot of self-work. It didn't just happen by wanting it or writing it down on a piece of paper and hoping it would work. It took a lot of hard work, and I believe in manifesting, but I think that there's a lot of hard work that goes into manifesting. So, but I genuinely, I agree with everything that you were saying on that.
Yeah, so let's talk about one of the things that I saw in your bio is building a life you don't need to escape from. And ironically, on the cover photo of my channel, it says build a business and build a life worth staying for.
Oh, I love that.
So when I saw yours, I was like, oh, that's so good. What did you realize had to change internally first in your life?
So it was definitely, I always, because of where I had come from and what kind of breeds addiction, I struggled with a victim mentality for a long time. And so it was a lot of looking at other people's lives and just feeling a lot of envy and wanting what they had, but not in a positive way, not like wanting it, looking at their life and going, I'm going to have that for myself one day. It was a lot of like, why don't I have that? Life is so hard. And that's what gets you stuck in that addiction. And when I started really working on myself and doing a lot of self-healing, I realized that way of thinking was what was holding me back. So I started every single time. It was a lot of like rewiring of the brain. So when I would think something along the lines of like seeing like a good example, or both my sisters are so incredibly smart. Both of them had no problem in school. And I was the kid who I struggled at everything. I had to have the teacher's aide. I had to have somebody giving me extra time on the test because I couldn't learn that way. And so it was a lot of like, why does it come so easy for them and it's so difficult for me? I'm never going to be able to do the same things that they do. And I was fortunate enough to have a dad who would say like, no, there's going to come a point where your different way of thinking is going to be a skill for you. And it's going to allow you to go so much further than somebody who can do traditional way of thinking. So I think it was along the lines of starting to realize that being unique and kind of being held back would empower me to go a little bit further, and things not always coming so easy would be what was going to excel me into a place that a lot of people that everything was kind of easy weren't going to be able to get to. There's a great book called The Comfort Crisis. And so that's one where learning how to shift challenges into great, this is fantastic, this is so good, is where I think all of that started to happen. So I ended up being grateful for where I was in the position that I was at any state. And that's kind of where it's like, you don't want to escape from your life if you're just grateful for your life. And it's in any way, shape, or form it is. It may not be perfect in this moment, but if you are able to find why it's so great and how you love it for exactly what it is, I don't, if that makes any sense. It's kind of, so I know for me, I always will tell, like I'll have single friends and they'll be like, I can't wait till I'm like married and find somebody like Chad or something. And I'll say, what you need to do is you need to look around and be so grateful for the exact moment that you're at. And when you're truly grateful for that exact moment, exactly for all its wonderful things, like you just me and my cat hanging out in the apartment, getting to watch the show that we want, eat the dinner that we want, and be in our pajamas and do all that kind of stuff for as long as you possibly want. Leave the dishes in the sink type situation. It's as soon as you're grateful for that and there is no wishing or hoping that something is on the other side of it, that's when like kind of life just starts to hand you more. And that I've learned.
Is there a faith element to your story, or what's the foundation of that gratitude?
110%. I don't think,
I guess so, but I was like, she's not saying it. So
no. So I always like to, I think it comes from it having been in recovery and I grew up in the Roman Catholic Church. And so it was very clear on how religion was. And then as I got older and struggled with addiction and experienced a lot of loss, I questioned all of it. And I wasn't so sure, when your dad's found dead in a hotel room, you kind of, at like a young age, you just are like, why and how, like when they're a good person. So that made me question everything. But then as I started to get sober and like work on things there, I started to realize that there had to be something, because a lot of the things that I experienced, I was being protected in ways that had to be like divine in some way. It couldn't have just, there wasn't a regular realm explanation for how things fell into place. So my faith grew through experiencing a lot of really wonderful things in life. And then also when I got sober, basically they call it Foxhole praying. And it's like where you make a deal with God, and he delivered in ways that I just can't imagine. So for me, I got a lot of proof in the pudding. So I can't not be grateful every single day for God. And God has only continually showed me that the more faith I put into him and the less that I question that whole aspect of my life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a traditional form of like following a certain denomination or anything like that. And that's why I don't ever want to I don't want to turn anybody off, because I think that when you start to study religion and you start to see it as a whole, each one really plays into the other. And there's so many overlapping elements between all of them. So I believe in like the traditional thing from what I grew up in. And that's the faith that I choose to follow, because that's what I know really well. But I have so much respect for everybody and what they choose to believe in. So I don't want to deter anybody by strongly doing it, but there's no denying that I have strong faith, is basically the best way I have to say it.
Yeah. Well, you were making me think of something that I haven't gotten to, and I'm in my mid 40s, and something that I didn't really get to until the last few years. I had read a lot about being grateful for hardship and grateful for turmoil and obstacles and all these things, but I hadn't really put into practice specifically being like, thank you for this, I am truly grateful, instead of just it being a Bible verse that I had read. And so that's been a huge game changer for me when things get hard in my business or in parenting or in my family relationships or whatever, being able to be like, I'm grateful for this. I know even when I'm in it, I know there's learning coming. I know that there's light through this. I know that I am transforming in this moment going through this, and I can be a better person, more relatable, whatever it is. I know there's good in it, but I think I conceptually knew that, but until I really put that into practice, I just feel like it's opened so many more doors.
Oh, totally. I think it's once I think it comes with age, because I think we've all I know I've been fired from a job before where I thought it was just going to be the worst possible thing for me. And then fast forward a year later, and all of a sudden you're in a job that you couldn't even imagine, and everything is going so much better than you ever could have imagined. And you're able to go, thank God for that really horrible thing that had happened in that moment. And that's like a simple thing. But even, I mean, I've talked about it already on here, but even with my dad passing away, had my dad not passed away and had I not fallen deep into addiction, I would have never ended up in Georgia, and I would have never met my husband. So there's still there's so many things that when you start to see that it can be true tragedy, but if you still kind of put one step in front of the other and you put your faith in the right places, everything does fall into place, and they do have a much better plan for us than what we have in store for ourselves. So
well said. So let's talk about, not to jump right into rock bottom.
Yeah.
What's part of the rebuilding that people don't talk about enough, whether it's recovering from tragedy or from your recovery process from addiction? What's that part that people don't talk about enough that really needs to be said?
For me, it was, and I think that I've noticed it a lot when I've worked with people in recovery. People want to grab for so many people they want a village around them, but they don't understand that it's not everybody deserves to be in your village. And when you are truly trying to overcome something, you have to be so careful about the people that you let in, because not everybody's going to help you get to where you need to go. And that the influence of a negative person when you are at a very low spot can hold you back in ways that you don't even really understand. And so for me, I know I really took time away from pretty much everyone. I cut down my social circle, and it was me, a therapist, like still kept connections with my mom and maybe 2 friends. And then from there, as I felt stronger, I would incorporate people. But if like in my addiction, like as I would introduce a new friend and I would say, listen, if you want to be with me, if you're not willing to punch me in the face when you see me having a drink in my hand, you can't hang out with me, because it's so can like affect you in such a way. Because there are people that will kind of want to see you fail. And that's the hardest pill, I think, for a lot of people to swallow. Not everybody wants to see you succeed. So you have to be really careful to surround yourself with people that truly want the best for you. And sometimes they may not be in your life in that exact moment. And sometimes you have to go seek them. And sometimes you have to be enough for yourself. And that's why spirituality is really important in those moments, because it might just be you and God in that moment. But eventually you can start to bring other people in. But that, I think, is probably the most important thing that I've ever had to learn.
Gosh, that is deeper than what I thought you were going to. I think one of the stereotypical things, and I think that applies to everybody at every moment. I mean, mission critical when you're really going through something, but that's something that, kind of long story short, we were in a city and working in corporate and all of that, and we sold everything that we had and bought a 140-acre farm in the middle of nowhere. And I had people that were like, which one of you cheated?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And I was like, we just want to do better for ourselves. And, I mean, we were doing great there with, the private school and the country clubs and all the things that we were living. We just decided we wanted to shift our priorities, and nothing was innately wrong, but nothing was also where we thought it could be. And we really pared down our relationships through that. And people took it so personally. And some of it was personal, some of it was like, actually just, when I'm cleaning up my life, like, you just don't make the cut. But then for a lot of other people, I just knew, hey, you're probably not going to be able to see me through this and encourage me through it. So our superficial relationship needs to be done, like its purpose and its season. And I wish you all the best, but I'm recreating myself in this moment. So I think that's really good feedback for anyone, just really evaluating those relationships, and what's healthy for right now. And it's okay.
And people can come back in. It's you evaluate where you are in that exact moment. Like I have people that I will carry with me through the rest of my life, but every season they can't always be there. But and then again, that's fine. And especially the superficial ones, you're like, people deserve chapters. They don't have to stay for the whole story.
Yes. Circumstances change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did discipline, I know a lot of people want to talk about motivation.
Yeah.
And especially in my client work, people want to motivate people around them. But I like talking a lot more about discipline because it's a lot more effective and has more longevity. So how did discipline and not motivation play a role in your recovery and in your rebuilding?
It is crucial because the way that we live our life. So we're really routine-based people, and that bleeds into everything else around us. So my husband always likes to say, it's like you have the 2 slices of bread. You've got your morning routine and your bedtime routine. And if you can narrow those things, you can control those controllables every day. What you do in the middle is far easier. So my husband says it's like there's a pieces of bread. You've got your morning routine and your nighttime routine. And if you can have those 2 things always consistent, it makes the couple of hours during the day far easier to hone in on those tasks that you need to do. So we take care of our mind, body, and spirit in the morning, and we do the same thing at the end of the day. So our bodies are always kind of fighting fit. And so it makes it's narrowing down the time. Like if you want, like for me, I was taking a lot of classes to work on when we were opening up a sober living facility. There was courses and there were things that needed to get done. I knew that I had from a certain hour to a certain hour to knock out those things every day. But because I have this strong morning routine that not necessarily everyone wants to do, there's a part of the brain that when you do things that you don't want to do every single day, it strengthens your motivation part of the brain. My husband's in the other room, I can actually find out the part of the brain if you want to know what it is. But he's really good at like all like parts of the body.
Okay.
But there is genuinely a part of the brain that if you're just consistently do the thing that you don't want to do every single day, it'll motivate you to do everything else. It doesn't seem as hard because you strengthen it. It's the same part of the brain that has to do with like the will to live. So over time, and this goes back to if you read the book, The Comfort Crisis that we talked about earlier, it's the same thing. So people get complacent and just like, oh, when I come home, I want to sit on the couch. I don't want to do anything. But if you don't ever challenge yourself throughout the day, your motivation or your like drive to do things is never going to be there. So for us, the number one thing in order to make sure that we're just motivated to conquer anything that we want to do is staying consistent with the basic things that nobody really wants to stay really hard focused on. So I get into a cold plunge every single day. Like it's 34 degrees. I get into that. I run a mile. I walk 3 miles. I do all those things that are not fun, but that's the medicine I need in order to make me feel motivated to do all the things that I may not want to do or have the drive to do them.
Yeah. You said fight ready or fight.
Yeah.
My husband says things like that too, mostly because he was in the Marine Corps for 10 years. But one of the things we talked about during when COVID was going on, and I hate talking about COVID because I feel like people just use it as an excuse, but
I thrived. It was one of the best times of my life. Yeah.
140-acre farm and got
yeah.
here. We were like, we're moving out here and we just take care of ourselves. But that was one of the things he talked about during that time was if our bodies are always in this place where we could take care of ourselves or maybe protect ourselves if we needed to, you know, not that he wants to look at the negative all the time, but that's just kind of what was trained into him, then you can conquer a lot more. And last year, he had a pulmonary embolism at the start of the year. Then he had cancer and went through chemo. And we were both like, dang, you would have died if you weren't in excellent shape. You know, like,
oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like sometimes it's your time, but him going through that, it was hard for him. And he's got 12% body fat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so grateful that he was in the position that he was so he could bounce back, even though it took 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
Staying fit like that. And now he's in better shape than he was before because it kind of fueled him. Like, I saw how hard that was. I was already doing really well, but now I am going to completely like transform myself. And it's been so cool to watch. And it continues to, the more disciplined you are, it separates people who aren't willing to do that. Cause you know, like, you want to stay out late. It's like, we don't do that because we've got things that we want to do at night and we've got things we want to do in the morning, or, you know, like all of these things that kind of compact our choices and make it easier to say yes or no.
Oh, totally. Well, you just made a point on sometimes your setback actually is a leveling up experience. So yeah, that's the blessing and the not so good things. But yeah, your husband having been in the military, there's a lot of that. If you've ever also, there's another book, David Goggins, like Can't Hurt Me. Yeah. And so he is one of his brain, if you ever read his book, he is a poster child for there's post-traumatic stress disorder and then there's post-traumatic growth. And his part of his brain, what I was talking about with the motivation is so incredibly hyper, like focused and strong because of what he does. So doing the really, really hard stuff day in and day out, that's how he became a master at the motivation stuff. And that's it. He's a perfect example of it. But it's that military background that really teaches that. And the men and women that really harness that and take that through life, they tend to do very well outside of it as well. And it's because of that. They know how to do the hard things incredibly well that it makes kind of like, who cares if you have to go take a course? They're not sitting in the stuff that they've done before was way harder than that.
Yes.
So they already know how to do it.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about money a little bit. Like I said, I love how you're open about what you all are able to do in your lives. And I think that's important. And I mean, haters gonna hate or whatever, but
Yeah.
I love to see that. So how did your relationship with money change through your recovery process and during your entrepreneurial journey?
So I had growing up, maybe finances weren't as taught as well, and people were a little frivolous with money. And so when I got older, I really didn't have a lot of money management skills. And I had a great uncle who left me a very large amount of money, and I blew through it in my addiction very quickly. And I learned probably one of the biggest lessons, that you will attract a lot of people when you have a large sum of money, because everyone's going to want to take it. And you have to learn how to stand up for yourself and read people and treat it as if it's something that you want to keep. And it should not be something that you treat without respect, and that you should 100% view it as something that deserves to be respected in order to keep it. And when I met my husband, that's the way that he operates from. While he can buy anything and everything that he wants, he doesn't operate from that place, and is actually one of those people is kind of maybe turned off by the extreme excess of things. And so we live very much below our means, and it's very much intentional, because I think if you're too over the top with things, little moments like getting a beautiful piece of jewelry, it doesn't seem as special. So you can have an abundance of things, but you still have to respect it, and you shouldn't be necessarily going on shopping sprees every single day, because it just you can lose respect for the money, and that'll make you lose it. But then you'll also just kind of weaken your senses around the joy of achieving something and having something, if that makes sense.
It does. We still put ourselves, or I do regularly. I'll be like, all right, spending freeze this month. Like,
Yeah.
especially I do this a lot right after the holidays.
Yeah. It's not that you need to, it's just that you realize that it's getting, like, you can feel it. You can feel, like, for me, because of the addiction, when you start, it's a dopamine hit when you're spending in excess. And so it's realizing that, like, okay, I need to kind of slow my roll, because I don't think that it's the actual, like, it's not the object that's bringing me joy. It's the transactional aspect of it. And so you have to be careful with it. I don't know. That's how it's changed me.
I also look at it like, what am I needing right now? Because it's not a thing, like, why am I doing this? Why am I killing time with it? Or is it out of boredom, or a hole I'm trying to fill emotionally, like doing that reflecting work? I think so many people don't want to be in their own head.
Yeah.
And the more I'm in my head, the more I like being in there, because I'm like, let me dig in.
You're challenging yourself by doing that. And that's 100%. I will do the same exact thing. I'll be looking at something very expensive, and I'm like, I'm going to get this. And then I'm like, am I getting this for me, or am I getting this for somebody else? And that's a battle that I'll have to do a lot, and I'll have to put something off to the side. And I'm like, let's find out if it's really for me, or if it's really to maybe impress somebody, or to do it in that way. So yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Or even just getting caught up on social media and seeing what other people have, and following, let's say, influencers or whatever that vet products. I've got a couple of girls that I love. One's out of Utah, one's out of California, and they both try things out and then put it online. And it is nothing for me to click on 6 other things in one set of their stories and be like, oh yeah, yes to that, yes to that, yes to that. They're making my life easier. And then I'm like, relax. You didn't have that 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Why do you need it? Just because someone showed it to you? There's unlimited things to be seen. And so I'll have to kind of check myself, like, hey, you don't need that. Let's think about why and where that's going to go. We've really tried to pare down what's in our house, our stuff, and the clutter, and what's going to leave if I add this to it. What drawer is that going to end up in, or whatever. So really challenging myself not to buy it just because I can, or it's available, or I saw somebody else And usually if I put it in my Amazon cart and let it sit there for 2 to 3 days, the next time I go to make a purchase, I'll be like,
you don't even want it.
Those products.
Yeah.
I use certain medical grade skincare. I don't need that neck cream that girl said. That's out of alignment with what I even want, you know?
Yep. No, that's it. I'm trying to do the TikTok, and I guess it's essentially like an influencer in a way. I mean, I would, of course, like to get the brand deals and stuff, but I mean, it's a pull. I have to stop myself a lot. And I just put it in the cart and then I say, let me just wait for a day or so. And then if I'm still thinking about it, that's the only time I allow myself to have that stuff. But yeah, no, I completely agree.
It's easy to get caught up.
It's so easy.
What would you say is one belief about ambition that you've had to unlearn or relearn or look in a different way?
I don't know if I've ever really like thought too much about it and like a relearn thing. I think that sometimes people can think ambition is a negative thing because they'll look at people and they'll be like, oh, that person's got ambition in a way that like they're trying to maybe social climb or get somewhere where they're going, or they put them down in a way of looking at ambition. And for me, I think I've learned to watch the people that are on like the bottom of the bottom, and you watch their ambition, and like, I guess I use it as a tool. When I see somebody with ambition, I try and figure out what is their motivation and what's driving them around it. And that would be, I guess, the only thing I really have to say about it. I don't know if that helped.
Yeah, I think women a lot of times are viewed in a way, if you're ambitious, that something's maybe wrong with you, or your home is not enough, or being a wife is not enough. And I would describe myself as a very ambitious person. When I see someone else doing something, I'm not like, oh, why them, not me? I'm like, oh, that's a good reminder. I can do it too. You know, I have this insatiable drive, but I do have to check my motivations on why it is I want to do things. But once that's checked, I'm rocking and rolling. And I've just learned that people at a peer level I don't mean peer as a social status, but peer as in willingness to go after it and get it. They never judge other people for being ambitious, or at least that's for the most part what I've seen.
Yeah. I think that's why I was struggling with that question a little bit. As I said earlier, I've really done a really good job of my social circle, and who I really go to for advice and stuff are not people that lack ambition in any way. And I actually kind of stay away from people with a lack of ambition for that reason, because I think that is actually a very toxic thing in and of itself. It's when there's a lack of ambition, it's a very scary thing to me, because it's not in a way of like, it's really good if you're content with everything that you have and where you are in your life. That's you've reached your ambitions, and that's a good thing. But when it's people lack ambition for like anything, that's the scariest to me. So my ambition is, I've always thought that ambition is such a good thing and an attractive thing. And I've always surrounded myself with people that also want everyone around them to have ambition. So that's
good.
Yeah.
So your content blends recovery with lifestyle. So I see like fashion, wellness, home stuff. Why is it important for you to integrate those aspects of joy and instead of separating it from healing?
Because I think that, it was intentional for me, because I don't want to ever be put into like one box and that's all I get known for. And I actually made a video recently where I was talking about how if you talk too much about the deep stuff, it can actually cause more trauma or wounds around it. So I don't want to ever be known for somebody that exclusively talks about this painful part of my life, because I actually am so far removed from it. It's not even a question anymore on my reality of like, that's the past is in the past when it comes to addiction. I understand that people need to hear it and need to see that you can move past it. And so I talk about it and revisit it to give hope to somebody else, because it was that I will always tell this story, is that I was in an AA meeting and I saw this beautiful woman walk in with the most perfect haircut and the cutest little workout clothes. And I never even heard the woman speak, but I just saw her, and seeing her in that meeting was all it took to give me the hope that I needed to know that I wanted to be like that woman in my recovery. Like, her walking into that AA meeting changed my entire life. Again, never heard her spoke. So for me, sharing the addiction part is just that the hope that that one person maybe seeing me is all that they needed to be able to help them. The fashion part is that it's 18-year-old me wanted to be a fashion designer. And so it's being able to just talk about it and still have it be a part of me, and not completely let it go because I walked away from fashion a while ago. It's just a part of me. And then everything else, I'm actually just trying to show people who I am. And you don't have to be boxed into one little thing to, we're not all one dimensional. We've got lots of different parts to us.
Yeah. How do you protect your peace while you're growing a platform and a business?
I really don't care about what anybody thinks about me. I am probably one of the most unbothered people in the world. My husband will always be like, how do you deal with that? And I was like, I don't care. To me, I actually don't. It's weird to actually have connections with people outside of the TikTok world, because when I pick up the camera and I do it, I honestly just pretend it's just me and the camera talking. So I don't even really realize that there's all these people. And then sometimes when a video will blow up, I'll be like, oh, that's weird. But my brain doesn't think about it as people. It's like, it's just a little ticker number. And then when the comments are happening, my brain just kind of works in one of those ways where I'll always I just imagine that they're like weird cartoon characters saying like a negative thing. And it's not even like, I've created this whole little alternate reality around it that I don't even I'm like, okay, you said something not nice. I don't really care. It really doesn't bother me. Yeah. And that's why in the rebuttal videos, they're kind of fun for me because I truly am so unbothered by these things. When I see them, I'll usually be like, oh, that's actually really funny. I can't wait to make a video on that because it's so ridiculous sometimes. And so it's for me, it's fun to kind of point out the ridiculousness of how some people think.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective. I put a video out. Oh, it's probably been a year ago, maybe more recent, but I was putting something out that I thought would be helpful for HR professionals, and it lit people on fire because I was talking about using AI.
Oh, geez.
They were like, oh, this is why HR people are POSs or whatever. And I was just like, oh gosh, I am utilizing the technology available to me. And I was trying to make it helpful to people in the same field of how I use it. And it really surprised me. But one of the things that I've learned from you is I only did one video on that. I had 200 comments, and no two of them were the exact same. And most of them were ridiculous. They were just absolute nonsense out of left field, have no context of me whatsoever, just saying the stupidest stuff. I should have done more because that's right there. That's a way to capitalize from it.
Yeah, it's people will. And so this is one of those things that it's as much as I wish I could only make the 100% positive, but the positive, it's the video that I made in the backyard the other day. It's so not even my personality to be people think it's crazy that we live in a 9,000 square foot home. We live below our means. We're not really flashy people, but I knew that was going to tick people off. So
just a little bit.
Yeah. So you have to when you make it, you're I know this sounds this is going to make me sound like a jerk, and you're going to get people that are going to comment because they think you're a jerk, but that's what you need to do. And then sure enough, I made it. And then the comment sections, it was you should have planted trees. And you're but then you don't get the house or the grill or any of the other things that you wanted. But the argument for trees is really strong on that video. But it's when you have something, it's also seeking an opportunity. It's another one of those moments where some people might look at that and be like, I'm going to give up on TikTok completely because people made some negative comments. For me, it's oh, good, they're getting negative again. That means that if I make a video on this, they're going to get negative again. But then there's also going to be people that are going to talk about it in a good way. So it's just spinning everything to your advantage, So, and it's like, next time you have that, be like, okay, well, let me try and be a little like spicy with it, but fun with it at the same time, and let people see your lighthearted, good character behind it. Because I cannot tell you how many people will say, I love how you take a negative comment and turn it around. It's like, that's the number one comment that I get from people. So
good. Because
yeah.
I see that in you too. That's definitely something that I noticed. That's awesome. So what's something small but non-negotiable? You talked about your morning routines and your evening routines. People love hearing about other people's routines. So what's something small but non-negotiable that helps keep you grounded?
I think, small one. I think for me, it's the choosing to find the good. Like, as much as, like, for me in all aspects of my life, it doesn't matter what we're doing. It's like, as long as, if I find my brain going, I don't like something or I don't want to do something, it's the cutting that like right there and trying to find the light in it. And I mean, this could be with like anything. It's like getting ready to make dinner and I'm like, oh, this is the last thing that I really want to do. I have to stop in that moment. The second I have that negative thought, I interrupt it and I'm like, I am so lucky. I cannot believe that I am at a point in my life where I get to cook a dinner in this kitchen. And like, I automatically turn that. It doesn't matter what it is. I have to. My husband jokes that in one of the speeches that he gave at our wedding, he said, I'm like living with a Disney princess, because I walk in the door and I'll be like, the trees were just so beautiful today. And he's like, you walk the same path every single day. And I'm like, but that by far, the mental gymnastics that I do around trying to stay positive is by far the most important lever I pull every day.
That's so good.
It takes a lot of work.
I say it sounds easier than it is. I think actually most people probably listening to this are like, yeah, I know how hard that is, because it's easier to get into the negative headspace. I am not Pollyanna by any stretch of the imagination, but I am very, very positive and see the good. And that brings me so much joy. I have to fight against constantly trying to teach people to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I see it in people and I'll be like, oh, you could just reframe that. Or like, oh, hey, you're doing it again. And that's going to take you to more negativity. Yeah. That part is one of my bigger struggles, is not constantly trying to get people to change around that, because I'm like, oh, there's so much joy on the other side if you would just see the good. And there's so much good to see. Oh, totally.
Well, it's something that you have to like. It's the same thing with recovery from addiction. Until you're ready to start living that way, you don't know. You won't experience it in the way that you need to. So, but when you're living that way, you're going, come to this side. It's so much better. Yes. Like, just, you need to not do that. You're going to ruin it. But yeah, I struggle with that too. But sometimes when you do that too often, people don't want to be around you.
Yeah, I have to remind myself, like, don't be self-righteous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not helpful to anyone. Then people can't hear you, but it is hard. I'll say to my husband, like, oh, you're being negative. And he's like, I'm being realistic. I'm not being negative. I'm just saying the facts. And I'm like, you're right. Sorry. With my husband, I usually tell him, I'm like, be careful. Because I believe in, like, when the words come out of your mouth. This is the reason why prayer is so important. And so there's a vibration aspect attached to everything. And so when you pray, there's energy that when you say it out loud, and it's like so I've taught him about how when you say you can think it in here, you just can't say it out loud. And so if you teach them about like a little bit of it, you gotta be careful, because if you say it and you say it out loud, you're gonna bring it in. You're calling it in. So yeah. So that's how that he's shifted a lot on that. And I'm like, you better be careful. And if he makes a joke, he'll quickly be like, never mind, I was just joking. Yeah. We're kidding. That's awesome. Well, let me wrap this with this final question. Okay. If somebody is in this starting over phase right now, what's one piece of advice that you would give? Number one piece of advice is learn and figure out how to trust and love in yourself first because it's making yourself your own best friend in whatever way possible. You will go so much further with learning to trust yourself and give yourself grace and respect and take care of yourself than you will with like anything. Because if you don't have that, nothing's ever going to be as sweet, and
you're not going to reach your full potential. So yeah, learning to love, take care of yourself, and become your own best friend.
What's a way that a person can do that? Like, what are some practical steps to help them to get there? If they're like, yeah, that sounds really good, but how do I make that happen?
So for me, it's number one, start taking care of my body. That is by far once you start, everything you put in is going to be kind of like what you put out. So good sleep, good food, good nutrition. And number one, start filtering the content and the stuff that you absorb mentally. So a lot of the music that I'll listen to, if I'm going through a really dark time, you get in my car, it's motivational speeches, or it is worship music, or it is something that is like all empowerment. It's just the second I get in there, it is a safe bubble that I'm going to get out of my car and I'm going to be like the most upbeat person in the world. Really important. Same thing will happen with the TV I'm consuming. I've noticed this so many times where I've filtered out a lot of like the negative, like TV series and like stuff that has a lot of bad stuff going on. And if I don't watch that for a while and I watch it again, I'll start dreaming about it at night. So it's all these things that like you just have to, I like to envision, I heard this a long time ago. It's like the inner child in you, that's who you need to protect. And so if there's anything that's like may trigger that child, protect that child from that stuff. And that's, you become the protector, the one that you want, that you would go out and seek later on in life. And so act in a way and be in a way that you would want that child to know that they were going to be growing up. So I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. My tapping coach, I do EFT with a tapping coach, and she definitely has me tap in and heal my, love on my inner child.
Yeah.
Harm my inner child,
Yeah.
all of that. I think there's a ton of power to it. If people can get past like it feels really woo-woo or it feels really abstract, but doing the work on that is completely worth it.
That's how you got to get into the woo-woo. The woo-woo is where it's at.
Yes, I agree. Well, anything else you'd like to share before we wrap here?
No, I think that this was really great, and I really appreciate you having me on here, and hopefully it's good for you. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if somebody wants to follow you on social media, how do they find you?
I am on TikTok on Live Well, Dress Well.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my main one. And I'm trying to go over to Instagram on my regular, it'll be real.livewelldresswell, but I'm a little bit more embarrassed on the Instagram one because people that know me in real life are on there. TikTok has been great because nobody knows me.
Yes. You know what? One of my best friends the other day was like, my kids were saying, do you ever see Kerri's social media? And she's like, yeah, Kerri is, outwardly, they don't mean that in a bad way, but like I am working toward thought leadership and really focused on my business. And if somebody wants to have a girlfriend conversation with me, they can absolutely text me if they've got my number. But otherwise, I'm using those platforms to monetize.
Oh, that's how you should. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, it is what it is,
Yeah.
Like if people don't like that, they're welcome to move along.
100%.
There's plenty of people who are trying to hit subscribe or follow or whatever that is.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much for being on. And I would say this internal work that you've shared about and your story, that work is completely worth it. And I know it's inspiring to others, and hopefully listeners, you've had some good takeaways today. And I'll make sure to link a couple of the books that Kelsey referenced in the show notes and her TikTok so you can find her there. But just always remember, don't waste the chaos, embrace it.